Right, the toughest section of the apartment clean. We've got the shower and the bathroom. It's one of those places, we get a lot of inquiries off customers quite simply wanting us to just clean their bathrooms and their kitchens. Toughest rooms in the house, so I think it's quite obvious why those stats are in, but we're going to go into this now in as great detail as possible, and I'm going to run through some of the simplest methods to make it a lot easier to handle. So I'm going to start with the shower screen. This is one of the things you find in a lot of properties, whether they be homes, whether they be apartments, student accommodations. Again, this is something that depends on area, because you get hard water in some areas and you get soft water in other areas, in which case you're not going to get much on the glass. So this is actually a soft water area. You can see this glass is not too bad. I have pre-sprayed all of the side hinges. The glass itself, I've not pre-sprayed. It doesn't look too bad, so there's not really going to be any need to try and sort of soften that up. But in another instance, if this was to be cloudy, that's basically limescale build up from your hard water. It will need a little bit of a more intense process, so I'm going to run through that process today as well. So starting off, we're going to pre-spray down all the hinges. Any of these little gaps where you feel are going to need a little bit of soak, anything people can grab onto, you're always going to get a little bit more of a grubby mark there. Again, down this here, and again, when you want to pull the door shut, because you're going to want to get behind all those little gaps and the nooks and crannies where you're not going to necessarily see once that door is folded back. Again, behind down by the plug hole, on the sides, any grouting that needs to be pre-sprayed, anything hidden behind there, you're going to open the door up and you're not necessarily going to see it straight away. So it's best to get in the shower, close it up, and then you can see everything. Moving on to the shower side, most common again, you get the soap dishes, whether it be in a student accommodation, apartments, homes, you are going to need to pre-soak those on, I would say, 99% of the time. The shower tap points here, again, hard water on the top, and what you'll find is when they've got these curved edges on them, the water rolls underneath, and this is something that goes unnoticed for a very long time. So you can see the limescale is a lot thicker underneath the tap than it is on top. So we're going to give this a little bit of a pre-soak. Now this is something that's not going to just wipe off with a cloth. So if you ever come across this limescale, you'll notice it's very hard. It almost goes like stone. So one of the things you're going to need for that is one of the green Brillo pads. You don't need to put a great deal of effort into it, and these are actually non-scratch anyway, so you haven't got to be too concerned about damaging the chrome. But give it a good scrub on the worst points, which is in this case the underside of the tap. You may get it around the bezel here. Again, you can actually curve these round. You can go back and forth, you can twist them, you can just make sure you get everything nice and thorough, and there's a little backing plate, a little bit awkward to get to, but again, give it a good scrub, and down in the joint where it joins the wall and the tile with the edge of the green Brillo, and you'll find quite quickly everything cleans up. So now that I've given that a scrub over with the Brillo pad, I'm just going to give it a very quick wipe over with my microfiber cloth, just to see how much of it I've actually improved. And as you can see, all of that limescale had come off. It's all been buffed up nice, and we can move on to the next section of our shower clean. So now that we've pre-sprayed everything, again with this soap dish here, we can use the green Brillo just to get into all the corners. And as we've pre-sprayed it, it doesn't take a great deal of effort, and you'll find the underside is a lot dirtier, strangely, than you get in the top, all depending on the type of soap. So we're going to give that a quick buff. Get right in the corners. If you can push your nail in with the cloth into the corners, just to make sure you get everything out of there, you're going to get a much better finish. So that now is ready to go. What you'll notice, I'm actually doing all of the worst parts of the shower first. I'm getting all of the hard water surface areas covered. And then when it comes to the end of the shower, hopefully a lot of it will just be a quick wipe down. We can buff all the glass up real nice. The shower tray, I'll go into that in the next section. As you do come across a little bit more stubborn, if people have been washing, self-tan off, then you will find that it'll stain the shower tray, so it needs a little bit more of an effort with a scrubbing brush. Alright, so moving on, as I said, you will come across some showers which are a lot worse than others. Some will be so clouded over in limescale, it's going to take a lot of work. in this instance, you can see there is limescale on the inside of the glass. There's a lot of it is spotting, so it's not too bad, but it's exactly the same process when it comes to using the glass blade. So I'm just going to show you very quickly. You should see an instant, if I just go, as I said, in the forward motion with the blade, you can actually see it's like snowing in here. It's flaking off quite quickly. It's not taking a lot of effort at all, but hopefully that'll pick up on the camera where the line scale is getting removed with the blade. There's not a great deal on here, but it is important to get it off. You need this glass to be as shiny as possible. One of the things I would say is when you get to the edges, you get a little rubber band which is holding the glass in all the way down. Now you want to be very careful with getting this by the blade edge. So what I tend to do is keep my finger away from the blade edge at the back, and you can hold that up against the frame. So you can take it up, keeping the distance between the rubber and the blade, and you can just do a little bit of finishing off in there with a green Brillo pad if you need to. Also, when it comes to the framing, if you get limescale on these aluminium frames, you're going to want to use the green Brillo pad to clean that off and give it a scrub. It's perfectly safe to do that. One of the things you definitely don't want to do is use the blade on the aluminium frame or any metal scouring. Okay, so in the shower itself, we've got, as you can see in the corner, we've got the shower plug. This can be sprayed up with multi-surface glass cleaner. This can be buffed over. I'll show you this in a couple of minutes, but we're going to want to pull it out first. You can see the underneath is quite grim, so you can spray that with multi-surface cleaner, give it a good scrub with a brush. That'll all swill away. And again, in here, this is the hair trap. Any trapped hairs, just pull them all out, throw them out. I will throw them straight on the floor out there because it's only going to get sucked up in the hoover a little bit later anyway. So once that's all been sprayed up, hair's been pulled out, it's been given a scrub and it's been cleaned, just pop the trap on the top and then that's going to have one last buff. So you can see the actual condition of the shower tray is not too great. We've got to get right in these corners here. I'm going to show you the technique that you would use for the worst case scenario. So you want to spray right down in the seal. You're going to want to spray the entire shower tray. I'll show you this one corner just as an example, and then you would use exactly the same process to do the rest of it. So once you've sprayed in there, just give it a good scrub with a brush. And again, when it comes to this section, the thing I find best is circular motions for these. Because you've got the grip on the bottom here built in, it does sometimes need circular motion to get any of the dirt and the debris out. Again, you don't necessarily need the brush for the top of this, but as we've got it in our hands, we're going to get right down in the gaps. This is great for getting in between all the hinges and things as well. And again, with the grout, the scrubbing brush is probably one of the most handy tools in the box, really. So now that we've done that, we're going to give this a very, very quick wipe. This is on a very, very short scale. You might want to spend just a little bit longer scrubbing if it is slightly dirtier than your average shower tray, but as you can see, this one section alone is looking a lot cleaner and shinier. You'd use exactly the same process now, moving back past here. You can see the definite line, in fact. That's a much better angle. So once you get back to a certain point, you're going to be pushed up against the wall like I am right now. You're going to want to open the shower door, push it back, and the rest of this shower tray can actually be done from the outside now, making it a lot easier to access. Okay, so you can see this is quite a large mirror. If you're on the shorter side, you're going to need a step ladder. You can't be standing on toilets, you can't be standing on sinks, extremely dangerous. So luckily I can just about reach to the top of this. Again, with the mirrors, you don't need to put loads of glass cleaner on them, you're just making more work for yourself. So I'm going to start at the top, I'm going to come down the side, go back up, over the top, down the side. So you want to get all the higher points done first, just to get those out of the way. And then we're going to go from right to left, all the way down. As you can see, I'm not scrubbing it, I'm not breaking a sweat. It really isn't hard to do. Very little glass cleaner required. So you can see there is a slight haze on there now. So you are going to want to get a dry cloth and buff that off. Once you've done that, you should get the results you're after. So I can see now straight away from the top. You might not see it from the angle the camera is just yet, but from the top, we're just buffing all the way down. We're not rushing in case we miss something. So we're buffing across the glass. Get a couple of little blemishes at the bottom I can see there. And what you want to do, one of the biggest tricks to glass and mirrors. You can't just stand directly from it now and see, yeah, that's looking really good. One of the keys is to stand from the side. You can see the light hitting it from a totally different angle. So you might find, especially with the shower cubicle doors, you may have them closed, you give them a buff over, think that looks really good. And when you close it, you get a different light hitting it and it just looks rubbish. So, just put it out there politely. So that's the best way to do it. Just make sure you check the angle, because everything looks different with a different light hitting it. So as you see, same principle, top to bottom, we've done all the higher mirrors. So the shower cubicle, shower basin, everything in this side of the room is done now. We don't need to do anything else there. So we're going to move on here. This has already had a pre-spray, so a lot of it is already broken down, which means that there's going to be minimal effort required. As you can see, quick wipe over, quick wipe around the base of the tap. Make sure you get right into these corners here. This is another prime spot for the limescale buildup. And again, down the sides of the sink, give it a good scrub. Because from the top, everything can look absolutely pristine and fan dandy. But when you're sitting on the toilet, you got all this here is covered in toothpaste, dirt from your hands. We've been flicking your hands off to try and dry them a little better. It just makes a real mess. And all these backsplash tiles here, these are all the areas that take the brunt. And again, this sharp little tray here, get all the chrome, gonna get right on the chrome. I'm gonna give that a quick wipe. Make sure everything's buffed up. Make sure you get the underneath. With this being a glass tray as well, it's especially more noticeable when you're looking down. So we're gonna give the taps a wipe. Last but not least, we're getting right in the sink. What you'll find in every sink is this back part which gets the brunt. It gets real grimy. And then you're gonna wanna give the plug hole a good buff, especially if you've got a chrome cap in the bottom there. You might have the click clack, you might have the swivel, so whichever way around, just give it a real good clean out. And exactly the same with all the glass and chrome, as I've said to you before, if you need to finish it off with a glass cleaner, because again, you might get this residue in these cloths when you're wiping everything over. When it's wet, it looks amazing, and then you come back 10 minutes later, it's all dried, and you think, why did I bother? It just totally dries, hazy, it looks dirty, it's not very presentable. So you want to make sure that the final test is checking your own work. It's really important to check your own work. I've been cleaning for over 15 years. I still double check all my work. We're all human, we all make mistakes. Sometimes it takes leaving a room to come back in and seeing everything with a fresh eye. Okay, so everybody's favourite part of cleaning. Cleaning the toilet. Again, keep it as simple as you possibly can. You need to do a good thorough job. So I'm going to show you the simplest way to clean a toilet. Spray it over with your antibac. So you're going to concentrate on the top first. Nice and simple. Quick wipe over. Nothing too strenuously required on the top. Or at least they shouldn't be. You don't want too much dirt up here. Towards the back here, this is a really important part. So the hinges, you can see the back of the hinges are sticking out on the toilet here. Right around the edge, there's a little bit there. You've got the dirt, just tucks itself away in the corners. So you're going to want to get in there with the cloth and on the top of the hinge, bring it around and off the edge of the toilet. So that's the best way to do it. You start going back and forth like this, all you're doing is you're pushing the dirt from side to side. You're not necessarily taking it off. You're going to need to push it right to the edge and off the toilet, and then sometimes finish it off on the edge if it all builds up here. So that's the top done. This is a bit of a tricky part. So if you look down in the hinges, you've got these gaps. So you can clean the toilet on the top end here, but sometimes you find you push the dirt down into these gaps here. So I'm going to show you a very, very quick and simple way to make that a little bit easier for yourselves. So again, we're going to just very quickly pre-spray everything. So before I even start to wipe any of this top end, the first thing we want to do with the brush, but there's a certain way of doing it. Again, you can't go back and forth. All you're doing is you're flicking the bits out, you're bringing them in, you're flicking them out, you're bringing them in. So you're going to want to try and get it to the centre, so it drops down, and by the time we lift the third seat, it's just going to be sitting there ready to go for us to wipe off with a cloth. So you're almost going to want to do a down side motion, a lot quicker when you get used to it. Just almost flicking it all. You can actually see it flick into the centre, and this is exactly what we want. So you've got the dirt now is sitting on the top there. How simple is that? Quick wipe, gone. And then it drops down on the lower parts. You'll find it drops down into the underneath. Again, we've got it drop down here, and we can wipe it away. Wipe it away. Again, same motion, centre, round the hinge, off, centre, round the hinge, off. Okay, so you can see the edge of the seat here, we got a little bit of a build up. This is not something that's just going to wipe off quickly. So I'm going to show you one of the ways of removing this, and that's to use a little bit of Astonish. This is basically an abrasive paste, mostly used on the ovens and cookware. We actually use it on oven cleaning ourselves, but this is very useful because it's almost like an over exaggerated car polish. It's quite grainy, you'll feel it under the cloth when you're scrubbing, but sometimes you just need something with a little bit more oomph. You can actually see straight away it's taken off all of this grime down the side here. We've just got this little bit in an awkward position, so might be a little bit more fiddly to get in there and do that, but with a little bit of persistence you can see that that is now removed from the seat. Okay, one of the last things to do on the toilets is obviously you've done all the top end, you've done under the seat, you've done in the hinges, you've done those little blemishes I've just shown you. So lastly, you're going to need to finish off by making sure that the side of the bowl, down these little flat spots here, they are great dust traps. So you want to make sure everything is out of there. And the same principle as the sinks, anything that builds up here, any moisture, any water, any chemical residue, any urine is going to fall down, it's going to go underneath. So just make sure you get right down the side, underneath the toilet, right round the edge, all the way around to the other side. Just get everything a nice little buff. And also when it comes to the switch up here, you've got the flush panel. This is actually chrome in this particular bathroom, so again, a bit of glass cleaner, give it a buff and it just finishes everything off real nice. Okay, so you can see on the scene, as we mentioned earlier in the video, these little spots are a build-up of nicotine. Now, we're not supposed to smoke indoors, but people get away with it, it does happen. So you've got these little nicotine spots here around the vents. Again, the same as everything else we do. If you need to pre-spray it a little, that's fine. It doesn't take a great deal of softening up or breaking down. You'll see that it quite quickly wipes straight off. But we are going to need to get all these spots off the ceiling. Make sure the vents are nice and clear. These are your extractor vents, so these not only remove the moisture from the air when you're taking a shower, but these actually bring fresh air back into the unit with it being quite a close, closed environment. Continue this exact process right across the ceiling. Again, I cannot emphasize enough, you need to use your step ladders. Please don't try climbing on toilets or on sinks. So step ladders. Again, when you use the step ladders in the shower cubicles, if you've already cleaned those cubicles out, you're going to need to put some sort of protection down on the floor just to eliminate scratching the surface on the shower tray or even putting dirt back in there and doing your work. Okay, so we're moving on to the lower part of the room now. We're actually going to hand mop these floors, and the reason for this is with them being such a confined space, you've got underneath the toilet, this is actually a floating toilet. So you've got quite a gap underneath. It's not easy to get a mop underneath there, so I don't want to miss anything. The best technique that we've found over the years is to do these rooms by hand, purely down to getting it exactly as it needs to be and being very thorough. The other thing you'll find in confined spaces with the mop, even once you've hoovered everything out thorough, when you're flicking the mop back and forth, all you're doing is you're pushing dirt into the sides of the room. So we're going to spray all of the one side. I'm not going to go too far in right now. I'm going to do about half of the room, and the reason for this is that if I start clambering over the whole floor with all of the dirt, everything's just going to get soaked into my uniform and I'm going to end up in a mess. So I'm going to keep to the dry side of the room while I'm doing this one here. And one of the other things I want to very quickly point out is with the grout in between the tiles, they're not too bad in this case, but if they are built up and you get a lot of dirt in there where they haven't been done for so long, give them a little bit of an extra spray and you're back on the scrubbing brush. You're just going to want to go in line with the grain and you'll very quickly see the dirt removed from that grout. So you give it a scrub, keeping it in line, and then what we're going to do is then, instead of the usual technique of top to bottom in the room, we're going to go from back to front. So all the dirt from this side of the room, as we're wiping it out, we're going straight into the back wall, the corners. We're going to be checking this tile as we go along, just in case over the years it's been mopped, there's splash marks. I can see there's a few splash marks around the edge here. So we're going to want to remove those straight away. This is the last time we're going to be in this room before we shut the door. So we're going to want to make sure we get every last bit of dirt out. Everything you've cleaned top to bottom is now on the floor. So we're going to start with these tiles, give them a quick scrub along the back wall here. This is exactly where I'm seeing splash marks from the previous. We're just going to give it a quick scrub, remove any blemishes. Again, I'm checking the side of the toilet and double checking my work from earlier on. And then we're going right along into the corner, right away along the sealant on the edge. And the other thing that I may note, you can see straight away the dust that's coming off the floor. So one of the things you'll notice when it comes to the technique, believe it or not, there is a technique to this. You're going to want to go to the side, and then when you go back, you want to curve the cloth around, almost as if you're scooping the dirt back and forth. Otherwise, going back and forth like this, you're pushing the dirt side to side, you're flicking bits back in the corner, you're going back to do your work, you just end up doing the job twice. So we're going to go over everything, twisting the cloth all our way out. You can see I'm brushing, I'm turning, I'm making sure everything's coming out. And again, we're just going down this side here, making sure every last bit of dirt's removed. Slightly lower level on the tiles, just making sure we get the lower end of the tiles. And as you can see, the floor's looking pretty good. We're going to go under the toilet, make sure we get everything from under there. Checking the tiles as we go. And one of the last things I do when I'm leaving the bathroom is I check the door frame. The lower frame here is adjacent to the bottom of the toilet. So we're going to give that a quick spray. I can actually see there's some splash marks on there. That could be urine, it could be previous mop water. So we're going to give that a quick scrub. Doesn't take a lot, that's gone. Moving out of the room. Again, I'm on dry floor. Going to spray the second half of the room. We're going to spray the aluminium plate on the door. Just to make sure everything, these little nooks and crannies here, last thing we're going to do, we're going to bring everything out. Don't be so concerned about getting all the bits in the cloth, because once it's out on this floor, we're going to hoover this floor next. So again, side to side, making sure everything comes out. You're getting right in the corners, making sure to check the lower end of the tiles, right up against the sealant, the doors. So we're bringing everything to the edge of the room. Again, totally clean in there, all the dirt's in my cloth. We're going down in these gaps next, in the door frame. We're coming along the door frame panel, kick panel, bringing everything out, and last but not least, we're going to do the front of the aluminium panel, and everything is in the cloth. You can flick it all on the floor if you need to, because we're going to hoover it up, but everything in that room is now done. Dusted, bathroom's looking great, mirrors are looking great, ceiling's been done, shower, toilet, everything's pristine. It's finally time to close the door on this room.